Hello everyone, this is Ruchika, the diabetes dietitian from the Scarborough Centre for Healthy Communities.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Sahana, a diabetes nurse educator from Scarborough Centre for Healthy Communities. Ruchika and I would like to welcome you to our webinar today on COVID-19 and diabetes, grocery shopping and safety measures for South Asians. We acknowledge that Scarborough has a large South Asian population, and so we felt it was appropriate to share this information with you all. However, anyone is more than welcome to watch this webinar. First off, I wanted to discuss very briefly about what COVID-19 is and just how you can prevent yourself from contracting COVID-19. So as per Toronto Public Health, COVID-19 stands for Coronavirus Disease 2019, which is the year that the virus first appeared. Okay, it is a respiratory illness, and what that means is that it spreads through direct contact with the respiratory droplets of someone who is infected with coronavirus through coughing, sneezing, or even talking. Okay, and those respiratory droplets can actually spread up to 2 meters or 6 feet, which is why we keep hearing that is the physical distance that we should keep between others. And it may also be possible for someone to get this disease, this virus rather, by touching an object that has been infected with the virus. Okay, and then touching our own face, so our eyes, nose, or mouth with those unwashed hands, and that can be one way of transmission as well. Okay, so some people experience mild or even no physical symptoms, and symptoms can take up to 14 days after exposure to appear. Okay, so these are just some of the most commonly noted symptoms, and they include fever, cough, shortness of breath, muscle aches, runny nose, a loss of taste or smell, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and or difficulty swallowing. So how can you prevent yourself from COVID-19? So at this time, there are no vaccines or treatments available, unfortunately. So there are ways that we can reduce our risk, such as by, again, practicing that physical distancing of keeping 2 meters or 6 feet away from ourselves and others. We can limit non-essential trips outside of the home. We can use soap and water to wash our hands frequently, or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. We can wear rather a face mask or a face covering when we're in public, and we can avoid touching our eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. We can also cover our coughs, sneezes when we're in public and even in the home, and just making sure that we're cleaning frequently touched objects and surfaces.
So those people who have compromised immunity, those 70 years and over, and those living with chronic conditions like diabetes, heart problems, are considered to be at a risk for coronavirus. And because people with diabetes are considered to be at a risk, it's not the risk in terms of contracting the infection. It's the manifestation of the infection in terms of the symptoms, and the complications are higher and could be more adverse for somebody living with diabetes, especially if the blood sugars are not well managed. And as we know that the South Asian population, the incidence of diabetes is very high. So it's very important that we maintain a good blood sugar control, and at the same time, maintain all the, take all the safety precautions that are needed to prevent contracting the infection. And very often we might see a family member coughing or sneezing, and that may just scare us, yeah, that the infection has been contracted and brought home. And at those times you're like, am I going to be getting the infection? What am I to do? It's, it's already there home. But it may not just, the cough and the sneeze may be a casual one. It may not be something that is part of the infection, right? But the person may have just contracted it sometimes even by while doing the grocery shopping, which may be just limited sometimes to once a week, and still that infection could have been brought. So you want to be very, very careful on, maintaining all the safety precautions like Sahana was just mentioning, and at the same time having a good blood sugar control. That's very, very important. And when we're looking at the grocery, shopping, and we were talking about once a week just now, it is recommended to try and limit the frequency. If once a week works well for you, that's fine. If you feel that, you can even stretch it to 10 days or 2 weeks, that's also perfect, right? So we need to limit that going out, especially those non-essential trips out, or going to the grocery every now and then to just buy one or two items, like we would be probably doing in the days preceding the COVID. So limiting those frequency of going to the grocery store is very important. uh, you know, uh, these times you're so stressed, it could be, because of loss of job, it could be because of, being inside our homes, and we're looking for comfort. And very often we try to seek that comfort from our ethnic food, which would also mean sometimes going to our ethnic food stores, right? And most of the ethnic food stores are small and compact. All right, so you want to also keep that frequency of going to these stores less often, probably once a month, right? But and not even wanting to stop going, but at the same time you want to maximize those trips and buy whatever is needed that can last you for a substantial amount of time, but at the same time not wanting to overstock on the food. So it's very important whether we are going to the regular food stores like No Frills, Food Basic, Freshco, Walmart, or whether we are going to ethnic food stores. We do want to limit out on that frequency of going out. At the same time, when we are planning our grocery shopping, the grocery stores do have, special hours dedicated for those who are seniors, those who may have special requirements. And most of these stores generally have that time frame in the morning when they open up, the first hour of the day dedicated for those with special needs. So if you fall into that category, it's a good, opportunity to make use of those timings, so that you are going at a time that you will be less susceptible to probably contracting that infection, and the crowd is limited in those stores. If that's not something that is possible for you, then probably even going at a time of the day that where the stores are not very crowded, the non-peak hours is something that we would really want to make use of while going to these stores. And over on the weekdays rather than the weekends, because we know weekends most people like to go out with their family, and they may just make a trip to the grocery store during these COVID times, where going anywhere else may be very, very limited. So if your routine, if your work and everything allows you to, make use of the weekdays and non-peak hours, that would be a good time to go out to do your grocery shopping, especially in the summers now. It's hot, it's warm, not many people step out in the afternoon, so that could be another time that you may want to consider if, it's feasible for you. And grocery stores also are offering the online option. So it need not be just the superstores. It could be even the ethnic food stores that are providing the online option. So that could be something that you may want to consider, instead of stepping out, call up your ethnic food store, and find out, do they have the online facility. Some of them, would, take the order over the phone and call you back once the order is ready, so you can go and pick it up. Some of them may also deliver the food to your homes, for a small fee. So whether you want the delivery to be left at your doorstep or in the trunk of your vehicle, you can let them know, and the payment can be made over the phone through your credit card or debit card. So there are a lot of options that may be available, to minimize out on stepping out or maintaining that physical distance. That's very important during these times. So, find out from your grocery stores and then accordingly plan your trips to those stores.
Great tips, Ruchika. All right, so just touching off of what Ruchika mentioned about when we're going into grocery stores, which inevitably we have to at some point, we're all going to have to go out and get groceries. And although it's a great idea to delegate one person in the family to do that, If you are that one person, or if you ever come across the time when you do have to leave your home and go out and purchase the groceries, especially if you have diabetes and, just like Ruchika mentioned, having that compromised immune system, it is important that we're taking all necessary precautions. So in addition to some of the things that I've already mentioned earlier in the video, I'm just going to go a little bit more into details about the specifications and how the mask or face covering that you're wearing when you go out to a grocery store or anywhere in public for that matter should look and how it should feel. Okay, so the qualities of a good cloth mask or face covering are that it should be made of at least 2 layers of tightly woven fabric. Okay, so the best ones to use are cotton or linen, and you should be able to easily breathe. Okay, and so some folks are not able to breathe well when they wear masks, which is why they may choose not to. So it's important that we also don't judge other people's opinion for not choosing to wear a mask, because there may be a medical reason, and masks are also in very short supply, as you all know. So we are going to be sharing some resources on how you can create your own mask at the end of the video, so please stay tuned for that. Okay, but other than that, it should fit very securely to your head with ties or ear loops, and it should be able to maintain its shape after you wash it and dry it. Okay, it should also be very comfortable, and it shouldn't require you having to frequently adjust it either. And just one tip for anyone, and especially for us South Asians, is to try and use some of the fabrics that you have just lying around in your own home. We are from a culture where we have a lot of clothing that uses certain fabrics, such as dupattas, so shawls, handkerchiefs, scarves. A lot of different fabrics that are found in the home can be multi-purposed and used for a mask. Okay, so be sure to use that, and if you have a sewing machine or know someone who can sew or do a simple stitch, it's really not that difficult. And when you make it yourself, the added bonus is that you can also continue to wash and rewear the mask as well. So if that's something that's been on your mind and you've been meaning to try it, give it a shot, and let us know how it goes.
So that was very helpful to know, Sahana, that we can really use fabrics that are there at home, especially dupattas and scarves, and especially in this weather. We can easily wear them and, make our mask look more vibrant with those different dupattas as well. Right. And while we're at the grocery store, even, at the entrance of the grocery stores, some of them are making the provision of providing the masks and are keeping sanitizers and gloves around. Some of them may be keeping it at no cost. Some of them may be charging a small fee or a donation. But at the same time, you want to still have your own. Carry your own mask and gloves with you whenever you are going out grocery shopping or anywhere else as well. And if the grocery stores encourage you to use the ones that they already have in the store rather than your own, go ahead, and as long as you're protecting yourself. And while you're at the grocery stores, when it comes to the bigger grocery stores, there may not be so much of an issue in terms of the space. Even if there are just 5 or 10 people in the stores, they may be scattered all over the store. But let's say you're in a smaller store, in an ethnic food store, 5 or 10 people may actually crowd up that place. So if you do find that it seems crowded, you can just step out and go back in after a few minutes when it tends to be a little less crowded. And even while you are walking down the aisle, to pick up the items that you may need, sometimes the aisles may have 2 or 3 people and it's very compact. And, instead of just standing there, you can probably go to another aisle where you need to pick up some of the other requirements and then come back. And while we are at the grocery store, some of the good things that, especially a cultural food that we can really, shop and, maximize most of, our dollar value are things, foods like beans and lentils. There's so much of variety in the South Asian cuisine for beans and lentils, be it the chana or the chickpea or the kadikal, no matter what you call it, the different kinds of dals. And they are from the diabetes perspective too, including plant-based proteins is very important because it's giving you a whole lot of fiber, it's giving you the protein, minus the fat that you're actually getting from the animal food. So when you may buy, let's say a pound of chicken, it may cost you $5 for a pound, and it may not be sufficient for the entire family at one meal. But let's say you buy a bag of, dals or beans that is costing you the same amount, that can actually stretch you for the entire month. And so that will also add variety to your diet, and at the same time, manage eating healthy within a budget. It's not necessarily that we need to use only the beans and lentils whole. We can also use their flours, right? Like the soya flour or the black tuna flour, or we can even use the moong dal flour, which can be even mixed with the regular wheat flour to make the rotis. Flours like, the moong flour can also be used to make crepes or dosas, right? So we can get as innovative with, with our cultural food. And we've got, a whole lot of grains also that we use other than, the all-purpose flour, which is not one of the healthiest choices. We can use millets like ragi, or finger millets, or pearl millet that we also call bajra, to include that carbohydrate in our diet, which is loaded with not only fiber but with a whole lot of nutrients. We can also resort to nut butters like peanut butter, cashew nut butter, almond butter, to also give us a protein, and that jar can last you for the entire month. So you could even invest in those kind of foods. And even when it comes to, some of our vegetables, like, like we do like to eat our okras or the lady fingers, as, some may call it, or even, wanting to add those drumsticks to the sambar. Sometimes you're going to make the sambar and you realize, oh, I don't have the drumsticks, so you may just want to go to the grocery stores to buy them. But they are also available as frozen options at the ethnic food store. So that could be one of the options, that you can resort to, like keeping frozen vegetables handy. So you can, use them into your dish, especially when you just need to use them in small amounts, and sometimes it's not an everyday item. So we need to, we can make the most of our dollar value and stretch it further by buying these sustainable foods, which are also a healthier option to our regular diet, which may be, low in fiber and, high in carbohydrate, like eating naans and everything, which are loaded with carbohydrate and are very refined. So these are much healthier options that we can use, keep our pocket healthy and keep ourselves healthy as well. All right. And and even when we are at the grocery stores, other than when we are in the aisle, sometimes when we're going to make the payment, the line is long. And, because of that distance of that 6 feet that we want to maintain, the line may seem longer. But and while we're standing in that line waiting patiently for our turn, sometimes we may just drift closer to the person ahead of us, forgetting that distance, back to those old times where we're always in that rush to, make the payment and leave the store. Or the person at the back may be too close. So we can always request the person to, move a little behind, and at the same time being very cautious that, we are also maintaining that distance with the person ahead of us. So one good thing that, during this time of COVID, it's this new phase what's teaching us, to, try to minimize on that rush, to slow down and be patient, especially when we are there. I know we all tend to want to get out of that public place as soon as possible, because we have that fear that, we're going to contract the infection, somebody may just sneeze or cough. So as maintain that distance, and I think that's going to go a long way in preventing contracting that infection.
Great tips, Ruchika. Very well said. I definitely think that, I know, well, for my home anyway, we've definitely been buying a lot more frozen and canned goods, and they're just as well as fresh produce. You definitely reduce food waste. and those trips to the grocery store. So definitely something for folks to consider. And I love that you mentioned so many great South Asian options as well, and that we can resort to them in the frozen or canned forms. So thank you so much, Ruchika. Just, on that note, I also just want to kind of touch a little bit on what happens once we come home from the grocery store. So just kind of bringing it back to the home front, what happens when you got your groceries, now you're leaving home. So right when you leave the grocery store, it's a great idea to wash your hands. Okay, and you might not have access to a sink or want to use the washroom, of course, in the grocery store. So you can always wait until you get home to wash your hands, or you can use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 70 to 90% alcohol, and just keep rubbing until your hands are dry. You want to wash your hands for at least 15 seconds if you are using soap and water. Okay, and once you get home, make sure that you sanitize your produce, any fresh produce that you buy, just as you normally would wash it. Just give them an extra wash, just to make sure that any traces of the virus have been removed completely, because these produce items are, they're being touched by so many people before they arrive in your home. So just being a little bit extra cautious of that, especially, if there are any vulnerable people in the home, such as elderly, someone who is pregnant, things like that. And of course, for someone living with diabetes as well. Another thing is, if you are using reusable bags for grocery shopping, kind of depends on the grocery store. Some grocery stores have discouraged using it, and they'd rather give you a new plastic bag, but some are still accepting the use of reusable bags. So if you are taking your own reusable bag, make sure that you're washing it well after use. And if you're using plastic bags, then just make sure that you discard it and don't hang on to it for future use.
So those are some excellent tips, Sahana, because sometimes when you come back home, we may also quickly wash our hands and just, get on to doing the next thing. And like you spoke about minimizing out on the food waste, that's very, very important. So when we are buying vegetables like lettuce, tomatoes, or green onions, we can regrow them, in our own kitchens. You don't need a big space or a big backyard. You can even grow them in your balcony, on your windowsill, or, even put them in pots and regrow them. Even, herbs like coriander, if you're going to the ethnic food store, you will typically find them, with their roots. So you can probably, just throw them in water for, a couple of days, and then put them into the pots. Same with the mint. And with mint, it is, the benefit is that it keeps growing year after year without much care. And so you can use that to even flavor your water, especially in the summers when we really need to keep ourselves very well hydrated. And, and we're out in the bright sunshine. It's very important that we keep ourselves hydrated. So, whether it's we are buying them fresh, whether we are regrowing them, it's a good way of, also taking away that stress that people may be feeling at this point, with the COVID situation, staying at home. So just putting your hands into the soil, feeling Mother Earth, it can be so therapeutic. So you can definitely, you don't need to have a green thumb to do it. You can just start it off, and just cultivate that brown thumb, as I say, and cultivate it to get green. Over the years it may happen, and it's what a pleasure, it's what a satisfaction when you see your the vegetables that you try to regrow, they're thriving, and you see new leaves coming up. It's so exciting, and gives you a sense of fulfillment that wow, we could do this.
Brown thumb. I love that, Ruchika. I definitely have to start exercising my brown thumb. It's, and like you said, also, some therapeutic benefits as well to gardening. So definitely try and pick up that skill if you haven't already for this season. All right, so That concludes our webinar on grocery shopping and safety measures for folks living with diabetes in the age of COVID-19. We hope that you found this informative, and we hope that some of these tips, especially catered towards the South Asian community, have been helpful for you all. I just wanted to end off by saying that Scarborough Centre for Healthy Communities Diabetes Education Program does cater to the South Asian languages, including Tamil, Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi, and others as well. So please do give us a call if you would like to have diabetes education services from a nurse, dietitian, or social worker in your mother tongue. If you feel more comfortable speaking in your language, we're more than happy to support you with your self-management of type 2 diabetes. And I also have a few other resources on how to make a face mask as promised, and these are from both the Toronto website as well as the Government of Canada. They also have some resources on how to make a mask both with sewing and without sewing for a face covering. Okay, so I know that the TTC has announced that it will be mandatory to have face masks now. So as we're moving into different stages, face coverings will definitely be the new norm. So I do hope that you check out these resources. And again, if you have any questions or concerns and would like to speak to one of our diabetes educators, please feel free to give us a call at the number on the screen there. It's 416-847-4160. We have 4 locations for when we eventually are able to go back to our normal business hours, and you can always schedule a phone appointment with us as well during this pandemic.
So thank you for watching this webinar, and we really wish you good health. Stay safe, be well.
Thank you, everyone.